I think that in some ways one of the impulses, I guess, behind the book was the ubiquity of sexuality in our culture. I mean, so many of the issues in politics even are very much centred on issues of gender and sexuality. There'd never been an attempt to write kind of a book-length study of sexuality in Australia since first European settlement in 1788, and so it really came out of, I guess, an interest in social and cultural history, and a hunch, I suppose, that there were some great stories to be told. I mean, I think there are some aspects of Australian history that, if not entirely distinct to Australia, are relatively unusual. I mean, the extraordinary imbalanced sex ratio of the 19th century, with so many more men than women, particularly in rural areas, right into the 20th century, and indeed the way in which that kind of strange sex ratio keeps recurring. One thinks of things like post-World War II migration and schemes like the Snowy Mountain scheme, which are effectively all male worlds, and look at our mining communities, the fly-in, fly-out communities today, where there are many more men than women. And so I think that if we want to understand the texture of sexuality in Australia, if we want to understand things like mateship, those sorts of characteristics of Australia are really important. They're not entirely peculiar to Australia, but certainly they've been very extreme in certain times in Australian history, and I found that fascinating to look at the ways in which those kinds of patterns kept recurring. And I think they give a real texture to sexual relations between men and women, to sexual relations, I think, between men, I've certainly found those aspects very distinctive, I think, to Australian experience. The nation that gave the world the Barry Mackenzie films also gave it Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Robert Helpman was graceful before Shane Warne. Peter Allen, the grandson of a Tenterfield saddler, was an internationally famous gay celebrity who went to Rio but still called Australia home.